The MV Kairali moved steadily through the humid darkness as the last traces of sunset faded behind her stern. The sky over the Indian Ocean was unusually calm that night, a deep blue sheet broken only by faint stars and the slow sweep of the ship's navigation lights. The engines throbbed beneath the deck with a steady rhythm, the kind of vibration every sailor grows used to after days at sea. On board, 141 crew members settled into their routines, unaware that they were sailing into one of the most enduring maritime mysteries of the modern era. The Kairali had departed from Margao in Goa with a full load of iron ore. She was operated by the Kerala Shipping Corporation and had made this general route before, moving ore toward the Persian Gulf. There was nothing unusual about the voyage when she left port on July 3rd. Her radio equipment was functioning, her crew was experienced. Weather forecasts showed no immediate threat. The ship's last official communication came shortly after departure, confirming that everything was normal. As daylight faded on her second day at sea, the Indian Ocean stretched around the vessel like a vast, empty plain. The ship's officers monitored standard procedures. Crew members performed checks on deck, adjusting rigging and inspecting hatches. The ore inside the hold sat heavily, but not beyond the limits the ship had handled in the past. The Kairali was not considered risky or unstable. To the men sailing her, this was another voyage in a long pattern of voyages. At some point after that final routine communication, the ship simply ceased to exist. No distress signal was received. No emergency message was transmitted. There were no reports of rough weather or mechanical failure. The ocean around her was quiet, with no shipping traffic nearby that noticed anything unusual. It was as if the Kairali had been cut out of the sea. When the vessel failed to make her scheduled contact, the first reaction from officials was mild concern. Ships occasionally fell behind schedule or delayed radio updates due to equipment glitches. But as hours passed with no sign of communication, concern turned into worry. By the time the Kairali missed her next mandatory check-in, the company knew something was wrong. Search efforts began with standard radio attempts. Repeated calls went unanswered. Other ships in the region were asked if they had seen or heard anything. None had. The Indian Navy was alerted. Aircraft began scanning possible routes the Kairali might have taken. Every scenario was considered, from a mechanical failure that left the ship drifting to a minor incident that disabled communication systems. But in each case, some trace should have remained: an oil slick, a fragment of debris, even a faint radar return from a powerless ship floating at the mercy of the waves. Nothing appeared. Investigators reviewed the ship's cargo load and stability calculations. The iron ore she carried was heavy, and there were past cases of ore carriers capsizing quickly if water entered the holds. But even a sudden structural failure would normally leave evidence on the surface: debris, lifeboats, or oil. The ocean was searched repeatedly. Crews scanned the water from aircraft, flying broad sweeps across her possible path. Naval ships patrolled areas far beyond the original route in case strong currents had carried remnants elsewhere. Not a single piece of the Kairali, or anything belonging to her crew, was found. As days passed, the families of the missing sailors gathered, demanding answers that officials could not give. The shipping corporation reviewed maintenance records and inspected sister ships for clues. Nothing pointed to a clear, predictable cause. The Kairali had left port in acceptable condition, staffed by a full crew, carrying a standard cargo, on a familiar route. There were no reports of storms strong enough to sink a vessel of her size. The lack of a distress call was one of the most troubling elements. Even in catastrophic failures, ships often have moments, seconds at least, where an alert can be sent. But for the Kairali, there was nothing. Some investigators considered the possibility of a rapid structural collapse caused by shifting ore, a phenomenon known to destabilize bulk carriers. If seawater flooded a hold and mixed with the ore, the added weight could drag a ship down almost instantly. But this still left a major question unanswered. Why no debris? Even ships that sank in catastrophic conditions left traces that eventually surfaced. Not others wondered whether the ship might have been struck by a rogue wave or faced a rare sea event not captured in forecasts. But weather data for the region showed no reports of extreme wave activity, and there were no satellite observations suggesting unusual conditions. The ocean was calm, perhaps deceptively so, but calm seas do not erase wreckage. Speculation expanded as more time passed. There were rumors of piracy, though no evidence supported it. The ship carried no valuable cargo beyond ore, and piracy in the area during that period was not known for full vessel disappearances. Additionally, a pirate attack violent enough to destroy a ship would not have left an absolutely clean ocean behind. The Indian government convened reviews and committees. International maritime agencies discussed the case. Families waited for anything, to come from the search teams. Every day without information deepened the sense of a disappearance that defied explanation. Newspapers followed the investigation, reporting every new angle, but each update returned to the same central mystery. How does a 266-foot cargo vessel, with 141 people, simply vanish from the surface of the ocean? Weeks turned into months. The official search gradually scaled back. The ocean had given up no clues, and without a starting point, there was nowhere left to look. The Kairali was declared missing, then presumed sunk with all hands lost. Families received compensation and condolences, but not one definitive answer about what had taken their loved ones. In the years that followed, the case became one of India's most unsettling maritime mysteries. Experts continued to re-examine the ship's design, the cargo, the weather patterns, and the final known coordinates. Yet no explanation fully accounted for the complete absence of debris. Every theory ran into the same wall. Ships of this size leave evidence. The Kairali left none. For the families, the lack of answers meant the loss never settled. They lived in a suspended state between tragedy and uncertainty, forever imagining the last moments of a ship that should never have disappeared so cleanly. Some believed the ship suffered a sudden catastrophic failure that pulled her under before anyone could react. Others held on to more distant theories, hoping someday a piece of wreckage would surface and give them a fragment of truth. Decades later, the Indian Ocean continues to carry the unanswered questions. Somewhere beneath its surface, the Kairali may rest intact, or she may have broken apart before sinking to a depth unreachable by standard search equipment. The sea holds its secrets, and this one has remained sealed longer than most. The disappearance of the MV Kairali stands as a reminder of how even in an age of modern navigation, radio systems, and coordinated maritime networks, a vessel can still vanish without a sound. One ship, one crew of 141. No distress call, no debris, no trace. Thank you for listening to The Sunken Ledger. Subscribe for more true stories from the depths.